Martha's posted some excellent content here in week 4, both this introduction video and this checklist here to go over the lesson plans, flip lesson plans. So this is my attempt at trying to show what I'm doing, to try to, if it helps someone, fantastic. I would also certainly love help. I would love feedback and things and ways that I could improve this class flow, so to speak. So that's why I'm doing this. So I'm creating a flip learning environment for my professional students, professional adults in Colombia. This gentleman, Ricardo, owns his own store selling these products. But I also sometimes work at companies like this company. This class is 14 students, and Monica here is the head of accounting, but there's people from finance and the maintenance shop from all different parts of the company in my class. Oftentimes, these learners are true beginners, and they're starting with almost no English. So I put together this plan, and I want to share it, and I would love to get some thoughts. So basically, my idea is to use the flipped framework, including the 11 indicators, and tie that to Paul Nation's 4 strands model for language curriculum design. I talked about that a little bit in this file here on SoundCloud /Profe Kevin. I talk a little bit about the 4 strands there, and please check out Paul Nation's work. That way I don't have to really go too much into detail here. Here I just want to focus on the activities I do. So let's say some objectives are, I want them to know the difference between nouns and verbs and adjectives. I want them to start working on some most frequent vocabulary. I want them to get good at using Quizlet and dictionaries. So I usually make them put word reference and learner's dictionary on their phones. I make them delete all their other favorites. They usually just come on the phone pre-put on there. So if they're just pre-put on there, get them out there, and they have 2. So that way they can get their dictionaries out super quickly. Let's not forget about that learner training. I wanted to share that. I forgot on an earlier recording. The faster they can pull it out and the faster they can access a dictionary, the more likely they're going to do it. So think about the fastest guns in the West. I'm from Kansas. Think of you want the fastest guns in the West. Pulling out their phones for the dictionaries. That's a big tool in all this. But and I want them to be able to start seeing the differences in word order from their native language. And anyway, those are just some general objectives. We talked about the difference between curated content versus created content. And when it comes to content curation, it doesn't get much better than this. VOA News has a special Learning English section with a lot of different shows and news and a lot of just too much to go into, but go explore that page, learningenglish.voanews.com. One of the shows is Let's Learn English, and it's perfect for my demographic, for these very low, true beginners.
We're roommates. I want to cook dinner.
Yeah, and these people are professionals. These videos are great. They're well put together. They are spot on, so I like to use them. But in addition to that, it comes with the lesson plan. It comes with different versions of the video that focus on different elements of language. There's an audio download. There's transcripts. There's writing practice. Look, just for these very basic, writing your name, address, and phone number. I mean, we're talking level 0 folks. These are who we're working with. But it also has lesson plans, and really cool lesson plans, and it has vocabulary. And the vocabulary I'm going to focus on in just a second, but these are the lesson plans. And sometimes the lesson plans have little sections of language-specific focus, like these contractions in very simple language. It also comes with worksheets, home, work, school, and they have to organize. Just great activities. I mean, that stuff's wonderful. So curate, steal, that stuff's wonderful. How can we use this in a flipped environment? So the content's made. Now, how can I be a great facilitator? Well, the first thing I do is I watch the video and I take some notes, because I'll use these later in the Kava activity. So now I'll show you a couple of activities. Those are my notes. But before that, remember, this is the flipped indicators plus, because I'm teaching language instruction, I'm going to try to use Strands' model for language curriculum design, which says that language should be studied in 4 ways. A language course should focus 25% on meaning-focused input, 25% on meaning-focused output. Here I've kind of put them together in integrated activities. Language focus, 25%, and this is vocabulary, grammar, strategies, learning strategies, repair strategies, all that sort of stuff, and fluency development. And all these I talked more in depth on the other recording that I just showed. So one quick note, you want to try to not get too heavy here. It's easy to let this get out of hand, and we need to do more of this. This is lots of repetition, lots of recycling. So if the goal is so that they can introduce themselves, and that's going to be the final assessment of them, a role play, then they need to just, 50 repetitions, 70 repetitions. I mean, every day, just a lot. Just get creative and change the activity up, and you need a lot of recycling and repetition of language, especially at this early level, people with no skills. So when you're making your content, have a look at your objectives. Look at the course. How do they all flow together, so you know where everything fits in the larger picture. And so then once I come up with my objectives, first thing I do is go to Quizlet. I think that's the most important. Boom, they need to have this. It's part of flipped learning because they can start to get some initial familiarity with not only the words and definitions, but also the pronunciation of words, because great students, the ones that are really engaged.
Verb, to prepare food. Verb, to prepare food.
They just...
To cook, to cook, to cook.
To cook,
to cook,
to cook,
to cook,
to cook,
to cook.
to cook. They go, a great student will just naturally start going crazy. So you should model that behavior. But anyway, you can just put the verbs, copy and paste them from the website of the video and put them like here. I prefer this style, no spaces and a comma, and that separates them, and you just import it into Quizlet. I will say it's very important on verbs that it's to cook. And adjectives, dinner, of course not. All of these will be to. Well, I don't want to get out of hand looking here. Anyway, it's important to have these good habits of trying to teach countable nouns with a or an, and try to teach verbs as they're memorizing them from the very beginning, day one, with the to, so that they can identify different parts of words, and that's important. It's so important to me that I take all these same words and I put them in a Wordle. And one in-class activity I do is to have them come to class, and I put this on the projector, or you can print them out and give them to different groups. And they write down in their notebooks 3 columns: nouns, verbs, and adjectives. And so they have to find these words and copy them and put them into the categories. And sometimes there's a little debate, and they got to figure it out, and you want to promote using the dictionary throughout this. But that's that basic language understanding. When I think of grammar at this, very beginning, you can't really do much grammar with them as far as teaching them grammar. They're so low in their language ability. So grammar for me is just simply identifying basic word types of the most frequent words. Then they need to know how to put them together. And so during my notes, when I'm watching the video, I take notes from the video and I just come up with some basic sentences. Also, the lesson plan might have some ideas. And I use these in 2 ways. The first way is to, as you see, put them in different colors, print them out on a color printer, cut them out into slips, and then cut out them into individual words. And I'm terrible, so I just throw them all in a bag together and give one big bag to the students. And, they got to pull them out and match all the colors and then put them together. It just gets them working with their hands. It's great for the in-class flip. It's a great activity. I've had great luck with this. Gets them hand-on. Oh, in addition, because then they get them in order, maybe it's a text with cohesion, and you can put them together. You can say, put these together in the order of the story. Or my personal favorite, I go to pronunciation after this. I pull out a kazoo, and I might show them the difference between the intonation. Is there a supermarket near here? Going up at the end versus I want to cook dinner. And then I'll play with the kazoo, and I'll kazoo the different ones, and they have to guess which one it is. They'll have to, I'll just do the with the kazoo, and they have to guess what just by listening to try to get them early with those good habits. Because with the grammar, the is there inverses to there is there, but also the intonation inverses, and that's equally important because we learn by storing sounds in our brain, and that's how they're stored in phonological chunks. So starting with the core of phonological chunks is very important. So I use this to teach both intonation, pronunciation of word, supermarket, let them know how many syllables that is, and get a rubber band, supermarket, and then you stretch the supermarket, you stretch it with your fingers, stretch the rubber band out on that wherever the accent falls. So, for my Spanish students, chocolate is only chocolate, 2 syllables, and the stress is on the first syllable. But in Spanish, chocolate, it's 4 syllables, and it falls on the third. So just moments with your students of identifying sounds, word stress, intonation of questions and sentences, and linking. So an example here, I want to might go to wanna, but I like to show them that I am right here. So these two would link that I am a good cook. Whenever this that I'm a I'm sorry, I'm ruining this. Here's an example. Sorry about that. That I am a, because this is a consonant, this, and then this is a vowel. This links. So Marcia says that I'm a good cook. So this is a great activity because 1, it's hands-on. 2, it's great for differentiation because people are working through it at their own pace. 3, it's totally learner-centered. I mean, for the most part, until the end, when you get the additional coaching, you can even have them put them in order for cohesion of a story. But in addition, once they finish, then you can focus on pronunciation, intonation, word stress, and linking. So it really is. I've had great luck with this. Another variation, man, I'm staying on the same one for too long. Okay, I'll shorten it up. You could do all these sentences in a different way. Let's say you have 10 students. It doesn't work for huge groups, but if you have 10 students, you cut these out into slips and give one to each person, and they have to read it out, and everyone else has to copy it down in their notebook. And then in the end, everyone will have 10, but everyone reads out 1. And that's a great activity to, could you spell that, please? Could you repeat that, please? To focus on those interaction skills and repair strategies very, very early so that they can at least prevent breakdown. So if they can just say, could you repeat that, please? If they can say, I'm sorry, could you spell that, please? I'm sorry, I don't understand. That's perfect for, remember, we're talking about A0s. So now you have A0s that are engaging in a conversation in English. Even it's super basic, and they're repeating these phrases, and that's this fluency development. Just a lot of repetition, people, at this low level. Get them good at the basics. So, anyway, those are what I would do. Those are hands-on activities that I would use from this VOA lesson in class. Is there anything else? Oh, on a side note, I, for this low level, like to always have these in hand. These are these most frequent words, the 1,000 most frequent words. There's 100 on a page, and there's 10 pages. Keep these out. Let them work through them at their own pace. You do a warm-up game where they throw a ball around and have to say words, or you have them write as many words as they can in 60 seconds. Figure out a way to play in these most frequent words. This is from the corpus of contemporary American English. These are the most frequent verbs in English. So why not start having them memorize these early? I also have these on Quizlet, from Spanish to English, because it's so early that if I can get them Spanish to English recall for the top, 30, 60, 90 words, let them go. Let them go as many as they want. But these especially, you'll be surprised at how far you can go if you have these memorized and you can recall them quickly. So it's like power is speed and velocity. In order to have a strong vocabulary, you need many words, but you also need to be able to recall them quickly. And it's not long before they're going to be actually going into the part of speech there on those most frequent ones. Do, did, done. But it's a little early for these, but you might have those on there for the gifted learners. But so you want to focus on the high frequency word list. Oh, to end this, so they're doing introductions. Nice to meet you. Is there a supermarket near here? And the intonation and all this coaching and this flipped framework that's trying to adhere to Nation's 4-strand model. Let's say the final activity is role play. Well, I'd have them make a storyboard. This is for a Spanish class that I taught that I don't think is for a role play. But it's an example of a storyboard like this where they can draw out their role play, plan it, practice it, and then their final objective for all this could be role play, like the one of the video. Most of the stuff goes here everything goes in Google+. That's how I organize this. So lots of computer words here. Maybe I write on something in class. I like to write on this in class instead, my iPad, and this is a little bit of language-specific, language-focused instruction on the iPad, and then I always post it. In the lesson, we work with contractions, ones that sound similar over here. Anyway, these could be micro lessons, or these could also be flipped the next time I do it. So very important is for these, let's have a quick review. Very important for them is that they very basic, putting sentences in order, identifying nouns and verbs, and also being able to introduce themselves and others were kind of the objectives of this. All goes through on Google Plus here. Let's back out here. I also recommend an exit ticket at some point, maybe after the role play. Get some feedback on an exit ticket, which you can do on Google Forms. They're a great way to keep up with your students. So I think most of this is covered. I've already went through this, and I don't want to go through all this. This is getting long, and I apologize that these are long, but I'm just going to talk it out, and some of these ideas are difficult for me to work through, so I can't really condense it down to 4 or 5 minutes. But I've read through these, and I think I get most of them. This one, I'm a big fan of the in-class flip, and Martha and Carolina also are. In-class flip is great, but this one brought my attention. The rest of those make sense, and I think I covered. But if I just had to talk about a couple, I would say the teacher provides different forms of feedback in the lesson. I think one tip you can do is have Post-it notes and walk around, and anytime you see, it could be pronunciation, vocabulary, or recasting to them. I often like to use a Post-it note and spend the money to get the ones with the tape, because some of them will stick it in their notebooks and they'll keep them for years. But on conversations and things, I like little Post-it notes, but also you can pull them aside into groups. You can grab someone's attention easily, you can coach them through, and you can do a lot of stuff in the moment. And that's that formative feedback or coaching. And I think that's by doing it this flip way and having those hands-on, student-centered lessons, it does allow for that feedback. I thought that one was very important. They can work through it at their own pace because they have the Quizlet and everything. Differentiation is evident in the lesson. It does become evident in the lesson when you have people working through it in a different way. And if you keep on the entrance or exit tickets, you'll keep up with your students. And so the differentiation is evident, because that's a tough one. It looks so small hidden down here, doesn't it? But this is huge. Huge to me. And that's why I do all this. And the last one, yeah, the ongoing formative assessment. I think the differentiation and the formative assessment go hand in hand. It's just a common sense way of keeping track of all them in all ways. So this was a flipped lesson plan for adults that I work with in Columbia here with the sample activity. Here's a photo. That's how I give it to them. I'm terrible. I also like to begin the class by throwing a ball around. I go to a toy store and buy a ball, and they have to throw the ball around and try to say as many words that they memorize from the frequency lists, or just introduce themselves over and over again in lots of different ways. So that's what this is. A couple of strategies for teaching very new level learners at the very beginning by curating this content and creating a flipped learning environment, keeping in mind Paul Nation's 4-strand model. So I hope this helps. If it helps just one person or a couple of people, great. And I would sure love your help, please. What do you think of this? And if you have any questions, I'm on Twitter at @ProfeKevin, or just leave comments here on Google Plus or wherever this video ends up. So have a great day. Thank you very much.